The air stank of sulfur and desperation. Lena Arcel tightened the filter mask against her face as she gazed through the cracked dome ceiling of Technopolis. The sky above, what little could be seen through the reinforced panels, hung like a poisonous shroud. Neither day nor night, just an eternal, oppressive gray. It had been that way for as long as she could remember. "Another beautiful morning on this backwater wasteland," she muttered, adjusting the calibration on her atmospheric scanner. The device beeped in protest, its outdated circuits struggling to process the toxic cocktail that passed for air on Earth in the year 2475. At 24, Lena had known nothing but this broken world. The great catastrophe had occurred centuries before her birth, transforming Earth from humanity's cradle into its prison. History texts spoke of blue skies and oceans, of cities that weren't encased in protective domes, of a time when humans looked up at the stars with wonder instead of resentment. Now, those same stars harbored the descendants of those who had escaped. The fortunate few who had fled Earth before the Galactic Alliance had declared the planet a quarantine zone, too toxic and primitive to participate in interstellar commerce. The embargo had been in place for nearly 2 centuries, leaving Earth to slowly suffocate in isolation. Lena tucked a strand of dark hair behind her ear and made her way through the crowded corridors of the Advanced Engineering Academy. The institution was a shadow of what Earth's great technical schools had once been, but it was still the best remaining on the planet. As an orphan, Lena had fought twice as hard to earn her place there, driven by a fierce determination to prove that Earth and its people still had value. "Arcel," the voice belonged to Professor Kwan, her advanced propulsion systems instructor. "The rector wants to see you." Lena frowned. She had just completed her final project, a theoretical model for atmospheric filtration that might, with proper resources, help clear small sections of Earth's poisoned sky. But those resources were precisely what Earth lacked, thanks to the Galactic Alliance's embargo. "Did he say why?" she asked. Kwan shook his head. "Just that it's urgent. Something about a new arrival." New arrivals were rare. Occasionally, smugglers would risk the Alliance blockade to trade black market goods. But they never stayed long. Earth had little to offer in return, except ancient artifacts and desperation. The rector's office occupied the top floor of the Academy's central tower, offering a panoramic view of Technopolis, the largest remaining city on Earth, protected by its massive, if deteriorating, dome. Through the windows, Lena could see the sprawl of reinforced buildings, hydroponics gardens, and the network of tunnels that connected the various sectors. Beyond the dome's boundary lay the wastes, the uninhabitable zones where only the most desperate or foolish ventured. Rector Emerson was not alone. A tall, broad-shouldered man with dark skin and a network of scars across his left cheek stood by the window. He wore no uniform or insignia, but Lena recognized the rigid posture of military training. "Lena Arcel," Emerson said. "Meet Jamal Khalid." The man turned, his eyes assessing her with practiced efficiency. "So this is your prodigy?" Emerson nodded. "Top of her class in atmospheric engineering and propulsion systems. If anyone can make sense of what you've brought us, it's her." Lena straightened her spine, aware of being evaluated. "What exactly has he brought?" Jamal exchanged a glance with the rector before answering. "Information that could either save Earth or condemn it to final destruction." The rector gestured to a sealed container on his desk. "This arrived on a refugee ship that managed to slip past the Alliance blockade last night. The vessel was badly damaged, only 3 survivors out of 50. Before they died, they insisted this be delivered to our best engineers." "Refugees?" Lena asked, confused. "From where? I thought we were the ones everyone else abandoned." "That's the thing," Jamal said, his voice dropping. "They were from Centauri Prime, supposedly one of the Alliance's most advanced worlds." This made no sense. Centauri Prime was the crown jewel of the Alliance, a world of gleaming cities and technological marvels. Or so the rare smugglers' reports claimed. Why would anyone flee from paradise to hell? Lena asked. Jamal's expression darkened. Because paradise is about to become a graveyard. The Alliance isn't just continuing its embargo of Earth. They're preparing to eliminate what they consider the final embarrassment of human history. This planet, and everyone on it. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Lena felt her heart accelerate, her mind racing to process the implications. That's impossible, she said finally. Why would they bother? We're no threat to them. We can barely maintain our domes, let alone pose any danger to interstellar civilizations. It's not about threat, Jamal replied. It's about resource reclamation. Earth, despite its condition, remains rich in certain rare elements they need for their expansion. With humans still inhabiting it, there are ethical complications to strip mining the planet. With humans gone. He let the sentence hang unfinished. Lena understood. Genocide disguised as a cleanup operation. What's in the container? She asked, eyeing the sealed box. Data cores, technical specifications, and a message, the rector said. The refugees claimed it contains the key to our survival, but much of it is encoded or requires specialized knowledge to interpret. That's why we need you. Lena approached the container cautiously. It bore the insignia of the Galactic Alliance, a spiral of stars surrounding a stylized human figure. The irony wasn't lost on her. An organization formed to unite humanity across the stars, now plotting to exterminate those left behind. When? She asked simply. 6 months, Jamal replied. Maybe less. The Alliance Council has already approved the operation. They're calling it Earth Reclamation Initiative. Reclamation, as if Earth were merely abandoned property to be repossessed, not the home of millions of struggling humans. Who are you really? Lena asked Jamal, noticing the way he spoke of the Alliance with intimate knowledge. Former Space Corps, he answered. 20 years in Alliance military service before I learned what they really thought of Earthborn humans like me. I've spent the last 5 years helping others like me return home, or at least trying to. The refugee ship that landed was my 7th attempt, the first to actually make it through the blockade. His expression revealed the cost of those failed attempts, lives lost, hopes crushed. And now you want me to, what? Find a way to fight the most powerful military force in known space with our scraps of technology? Jamal smiled grimly. No, I want you to help us build something that will make them unable to fight us at all. The container hissed as Lena disengaged its security seals. Inside, nestled in protective foam, lay several data crystals, a small holographic projector, and a sealed message tube. She lifted the projector first, activating it with a touch. A 3-dimensional schematic appeared, complex, beautiful, and utterly foreign to her despite her advanced education. It showed what appeared to be a network of orbital platforms connected to ground-based stations. What am I looking at? She asked. Project Aurora, Jamal said quietly. A comprehensive atmospheric regeneration system designed by Dr. Soren Ellis, once the Alliance's leading climate engineer, now a fugitive living somewhere in the wastes outside Technopolis. Lena's eyes widened as she studied the schematic more carefully. This could actually work, she whispered, her engineer's mind already calculating power requirements, material needs, deployment strategies. With this, we could not just filter the atmosphere, but actively regenerate it, restore it to pre-catastrophe conditions. Yes, Jamal confirmed. And in doing so, render the Alliance's primary weapons against planetary targets useless. Lena looked up sharply. How? The Aurora system creates a reactive layer in the upper atmosphere that dissipates energy weapons and disrupts targeting systems. It was originally designed for terraforming hostile worlds, but its defensive capabilities were what interested the Alliance military. They stole Dr. Ellis's research, intending to weaponize it. And now we're going to steal it back, Lena concluded, a spark of defiance igniting within her. If we can find Dr. Ellis, the rector interjected. He disappeared 3 years ago after escaping Alliance custody. Rumors placed him on Earth. But the wastes are vast and dangerous. Jamal nodded. Finding him is our first priority. He's the only one who can help us build the Aurora system with the limited resources we have. Lena stared at the hovering schematic, its blue light casting her face in a ghostly glow. For the first time in her life, she felt something beyond the resigned determination that had fueled her studies. She felt hope. Dangerous, fragile hope. When do we start? She asked. Now, Jamal replied. We have 6 months to save a world. The journey into the wastes required preparation. Lena spent 2 days gathering supplies, studying the fragmentary information from the refugee ship, and modifying a crawler vehicle for the harsh conditions beyond the dome. Jamal proved to be a valuable if taciturn partner. His military experience and off-world knowledge filled gaps in Lena's earthbound education. Together, they plotted a course based on the last reported sightings of Dr. Ellis and the limited energy signatures they could detect from the Academy's sensors. He would need power, Lena reasoned as they loaded the crawler. And clean water. That narrows the possibilities. Assuming he's still alive, Jamal pointed out. The wastes don't forgive mistakes. Lena had never ventured beyond the dome's protection. Few did, and fewer returned. The airlock at the edge of Technopolis served as both exit and warning. Its walls were covered with the names of those who had left and never come back, a memorial and a deterrent. As they prepared to pass through, a commotion drew their attention. A group of uniformed security forces approached, led by a tall, imposing figure Lena recognized with dismay. General Bin, she murmured to Jamal. Earth Territorial Defense Commander, and not our friend. General Bin had made no secret of his belief that Earth's only hope lay in complete submission to the Alliance. For years, he had advocated for dismantling Earth's remaining defenses as a show of good faith, arguing that the embargo might be lifted if Earth proved itself no threat. Engineer Arcel, Bin called, his voice carrying the casual authority of a man unused to being questioned. I'm told you're planning an expedition. Curious timing. Routine resource survey, Lena replied evenly. The Academy needs new soil samples. Bin's eyes flickered to Jamal, narrowing slightly. And your companion? I don't recognize him from the Academy staff. Security consultant, Jamal said before Lena could respond. The wastes are dangerous, as you know. Indeed they are. Bin agreed with a thin smile. So dangerous that I wonder if this routine survey is worth the risk, especially given the recent incident. Incident? Lena kept her expression neutral. A ship breaching our atmosphere without authorization. Crashed in Sector 7. My forces are investigating the wreckage now. Bin studied their reactions carefully. Strange that I wasn't informed of survivors being brought to the Academy. Perhaps because there weren't any, Jamal suggested smoothly. Nothing but debris when we checked. The lie hung between them. Bin didn't believe it for a second, but he had no proof of its falsehood either. I see. Bin's smile didn't reach his eyes. Well, I wouldn't want to delay your important survey, but I do wonder, why the need for so much equipment for soil samples? He gestured to the packed crawler. The longer we can stay out there, the more comprehensive our data, Lena said. We might not get another chance soon. The double meaning of her words wasn't lost on Bin. His expression hardened momentarily before he stepped back. Of course. Far be it from me to interfere with academic pursuits. He gave a slight bow. Safe travels, Engineer Arcel. I look forward to reviewing your findings upon your return. As Bin and his security detail departed, Jamal released a slow breath. He knows something. He suspects something, Lena corrected. There's a difference, and suspicion won't stop us. The airlock cycled. ancient mechanisms groaning. As the outer door opened, Lena's first direct breath of unfiltered earth air stung her lungs despite her mask. The landscape beyond the dome stretched in devastated grandeur, a vista of eroded buildings, twisted metal frameworks, and occasional patches of mutated vegetation struggling to survive in the toxic soil. The sky loomed larger here, unobstructed by the dome's framework, a churning expanse of gray-brown clouds, threaded with occasional flashes of unnatural lightning. This was the world as the catastrophe had left it, as centuries of neglect had shaped it. "Home, sweet home," Lena muttered, engaging the crawler's drive system. The vehicle lurched forward, its reinforced treads crushing debris as they began their journey into the unknown. The first day passed without incident. They navigated through the ruins of what had once been Technopolis's outer districts, now reclaimed by corrosive rain and relentless decay. Occasionally, they spotted signs of scavengers, humans who chose to live in the wastes rather than under dome authority, surviving by collecting and trading salvageable materials. As night fell, distinguishable only by a deepening of the perpetual gloom, they took shelter in the remains of a pre-catastrophe research facility. Its thick walls offered protection from both the elements and any curious eyes. "Tell me about Ellis," Lena said as they shared a meager meal of synthetic protein. "What kind of man are we looking for?" Jamal considered the question, his scarred face thoughtful in the glow of their portable heater. "Brilliant, idealistic, and deeply, deeply angry." "At who?" "Everyone. The Alliance for stealing his work. Himself for being naive enough to trust them. The universe for making him choose between principles and survival." Jamal leaned back against the wall. "Dr. Ellis created Aurora to heal worlds, not to weaponize them. When he discovered the military applications the Alliance had developed from his research, he tried to destroy his own work." "How did he end up on Earth?" Lena asked. "He didn't exactly choose this planet. After escaping Alliance custody, he stole a small craft and activated its emergency jump system without coordinates. Pure luck, or perhaps fate, that he landed here, on the world that might need his technology most." Lena stared out through a broken window at the poisoned landscape. "If his system can really do what you say, regenerate our atmosphere, provide a defensive shield, why hasn't he implemented it already?" "Resources," Jamal replied simply. "Aurora requires a network of satellites, ground stations, and enormous power. One man alone, even a genius, couldn't build it. That's why we need the Academy's help. That's why we need you." The admission warmed Lena unexpectedly. All her life, she had fought to prove her worth, to show that an orphan from Earth's dying world could contribute something meaningful. Now, faced with the planet's extinction, her skills might actually matter. "We should rest," she said, suddenly aware of the exhaustion weighing on her. "Tomorrow will be harder. We're heading into the radiation zones." The night passed fitfully, punctuated by distant sounds that might have been thunder or something worse. When morning arrived, signaled only by their chronometers, they resumed their journey eastward, toward the faint energy signature they had detected from the Academy sensors. The radiation zones lived up to their ominous name. Here, the catastrophe's worst effects lingered centuries later. Twisted metal formations rose from the ground like the bones of ancient beasts. Pools of liquid with an unnatural luminescence dotted the landscape. The crawler's radiation sensors chimed constant warnings, forcing them to navigate a circuitous path. "There," Jamal said suddenly, pointing to a ridge in the distance. "That structure doesn't match the ruins pattern." Lena adjusted their scanner, focusing on the anomaly. Rising from the ridge was what appeared to be a repurposed pre-catastrophe military bunker, modified with a collection of improvised antennas and what looked like solar collection arrays. "Someone's home," she murmured, "and they've got power." As they approached, the crawler's communication system crackled to life, a signal seeking connection. Lena activated their receiver. "Identify yourselves and your purpose," came a terse voice, distorted by static but unmistakably human. "You're trespassing on private territory." Lena exchanged a glance with Jamal before responding. "My name is Lena Arcel, Advanced Engineering Academy of Technopolis. We're seeking Dr. Soren Ellis on a matter of planetary survival." A long silence followed, broken only by the hiss of the open channel. Finally, the voice returned, harder now. "There is no one by that name here. Turn back immediately or face defensive measures." Jamal leaned toward the communicator. "We have Project Aurora schematics, and we know the Alliance plans to eliminate Earth within 6 months. If you're not Dr. Ellis, perhaps you could point us towards someone who might care about either of those facts." Another long pause. Then, unexpectedly, a harsh laugh came through the speaker. "Park your vehicle at the base of the ridge and come up on foot, unarmed. Any detection of weapons or communications with Technopolis will result in immediate termination." The transmission cut off abruptly. "Friendly," Lena commented dryly. "Cautious," Jamal corrected. "As anyone who's survived this long in the wastes would be." They parked the crawler as instructed and began the climb up the rocky ridge. The path was treacherous, with loose stones and patches of caustic residue that ate through the soles of their protective boots. By the time they reached the bunker entrance, Lena's lungs burned from exertion despite her filtration mask. The heavy metal door opened before they could knock. In the doorway stood a figure wearing a full environmental suit, face obscured behind a tinted visor. The muzzle of a modified pulse rifle pointed steadily at them. "Inside," the figure ordered, voice muffled by the suit's audio system. Slowly. They complied, entering a decontamination chamber that sealed behind them with a pneumatic hiss. Sterilizing mist filled the space, clinging to their clothing and skin with a tingling sensation. "Remove your outer gear," the figure instructed, still aiming the rifle. "Everything contaminated stays in the chamber." Once they had stripped to their base layers, a second door opened, revealing a surprisingly well-equipped interior. The bunker had been transformed into a combination laboratory and living space. Salvaged equipment from various eras lined the walls. In the center stood a holographic projection table, similar to, but more advanced than those at the Academy. Their host finally lowered the rifle and removed the environmental helmet, revealing a man in his 60s, with wild gray hair and piercing blue eyes, set in a gaunt face. Deep lines marked his features, telling a story of hardship and determination. "Dr. Ellis, I presume," Lena said. The man's mouth twitched in what might have been the ghost of a smile. "That name belongs to a different life. Here, I'm just Soren." He set the rifle aside but kept it within reach. "You mentioned Aurora. Show me what you have." Jamal produced one of the data crystals from a protected inner pocket. "Refugee ship from Centauri Prime. 3 survivors made it to Earth with this. They died shortly after." Soren took the crystal, examining it with expert eyes before inserting it into a reader. The holographic table illuminated, displaying the same schematics Lena had seen in the rector's office. "These are my original designs," Soren confirmed, his voice tight with emotion. "Before the Alliance improved them for military purposes." He looked up sharply. "Where did they get this?" "Underground resistance," Jamal explained. "There are more Earthborn humans in the Alliance than they like to admit. Not all of us forgot our origins when we left." Soren manipulated the hologram, expanding sections, studying details. "This is incomplete. Critical implementation protocols are missing." He fixed them with a suspicious stare. "What exactly do you think I can do with this?" "Help us build it," Lena said simply. "The Alliance is coming to sterilize Earth in 6 months. Aurora might be our only defense." A bitter laugh escaped Soren. "Build it? Here? With what? Do you have any idea what Aurora requires? Orbital platforms, Atmosphere processors, distribution networks, resources Earth hasn't had for centuries. We have the Academy, Lena countered. We have people willing to fight for survival. And we have you, the Creator. The failure. You mean? Soren turned away, his shoulders slumping. Aurora was meant to heal planets, to make dead worlds live again. Instead, the Alliance perverted it into a weapon and a shield for their empire. And I let them. Now you can make it what it was meant to be, Lena insisted, stepping forward. This isn't about redemption, Dr. Ellis. It's about survival, ours and Earth's. Soren stared at her for a long moment, measuring her determination against his own bitter experience. Finally, he sighed. Even if I wanted to help, Aurora can't be built with salvage and good intentions. The technology requires precision manufacturing we don't have, materials we can't produce. What if we scaled it down? Lena suggested. Focused on Technopolis rather than the entire planet. Create a proof of concept that might convince others to join us. Interest flickered in Soren's eyes, despite his pessimism. A localized implementation. It would need significant modification. Power requirements alone would... He stopped, his mind clearly racing through calculations. It might be possible. Barely. That's all we need, Jamal said. A possibility. Soren turned back to the hologram, fingers moving rapidly as he manipulated the design. I'd need access to the Academy's facilities, equipment I couldn't transport here, and people, engineers, technicians. We can arrange that, Lena assured him, hope rising in her chest. Rector Emerson supports us. Does General Bin? Soren asked shrewdly. Because the moment we start building Aurora, even a scaled-down version, the Alliance will know. They monitor Earth more closely than you realize. Jamal and Lena exchanged concerned glances. Bin is complicated, Lena admitted. He believes submission to the Alliance is Earth's only hope. Then he's either a fool or a collaborator, Soren said bluntly. Either way, he'll try to stop us. He studied the hologram for another moment before making a decision. I'll help you, but we work in secret. No official Academy sanction, no records, just those we absolutely trust. Agreed, Lena said, offering her hand. Soren hesitated before taking it. His palm was rough with calluses, his grip surprisingly strong for his appearance. For what it's worth, Engineer Arcel, I hope you're right about Earth's people. Because what we're attempting isn't just difficult, it's nearly impossible. Earth specializes in impossible, Lena replied with more confidence than she felt. It's how we've survived this long. Returning to Technopolis proved more challenging than leaving it. A storm had swept in from the east, bringing acid rain that forced them to shelter for an entire day in the ruins of a collapsed transport tunnel. When they finally reached the dome perimeter, they found the entry points under heightened security. Bin's people, Jamal noted as they observed from a distance. He's tightened the cordon. Soren, now dressed in nondescript clothing they had brought for him, studied the patrols. There's always a back door, he murmured. No security system is perfect, especially one maintained with limited resources. He was right. After several hours of careful observation, they identified a maintenance access point with minimal surveillance. Using Lena's Academy credentials and Soren's surprising facility with electronic locks, they managed to enter the dome undetected. They brought Soren to a secure laboratory in the Academy's sub-basement, a facility once used for hazardous materials testing, now largely forgotten in the institution's reduced circumstances. Rector Emerson met them there, his expression grave. Things have deteriorated while you were gone, he informed them. General Bin is conducting a full investigation into the refugee ship. He's claimed jurisdiction over all off-world matters, citing security protocols. Has he found anything? Jamal asked tensely. Not yet, but he's questioning everyone with access to the landing site. It's only a matter of time before he traces the survivors to the academy. Lena introduced Soren, explaining their plan to create a localized Aurora system. The rector listened intently, his scientific background allowing him to grasp both the potential and the challenges. We'll need resources, Lena concluded. Equipment, materials, personnel, all without alerting Ben or his supporters. Emerson nodded thoughtfully. I can reallocate equipment from other departments. List them as decommissioned or transferred. Personnel is trickier. Who do you need? Lena had prepared for this question. Zhang from atmospherics, Volkov and Diaz from engineering, Rodriguez from power systems. They're all brilliant, and none have connections to Ben's inner circle. And all were your classmates, Emerson noted with a faint smile. Personal loyalty matters in conspiracies, I suppose. Not a conspiracy, Lena corrected firmly. A resistance. Over the next weeks, Project Aurora took shape in the hidden laboratory. Soren proved both brilliant and demanding, pushing the small team to their limits as they adapted his visionary design to Earth's limited resources. The scaled-down version focused on creating a small, atmospheric processor that could be placed atop the Academy's central tower, with secondary units at strategic points around Technopolis. Instead of orbital platforms, they designed high-altitude drones that could disperse the regenerative catalysts into the lower atmosphere above the dome. The principle remains the same, Soren explained during one late-night session. We're creating a reactive matrix in the air itself, molecules that bond with pollutants and convert them through cascading reactions. The defense capability comes from the same property. Energy weapons disperse their power through the matrix instead of reaching their targets. Lena was fascinated by the elegance of the design, even as she struggled with the practical challenges of building it from salvaged components and limited materials. The power requirements are still our biggest hurdle, she pointed out, reviewing the latest simulations. Even for this reduced implementation, we need more than Technopolis's grid can provide. What about the old fusion plant in Sector 4? Zhang suggested. It was decommissioned after the containment breach 15 years ago, but the primary reactors should be intact. Soren's eyes lit up. If we could restart even one of those reactors and route the power through dedicated conduits, it could work, Lena agreed, excitement building. But Sector 4 is under Ben's direct control, military zone. Then we'll need a diversion, Jamal said, speaking up from his position by the door, where he had been keeping watch. And a really good reason for engineers to be poking around a decommissioned plant. Rector Emerson provided the solution. Using his authority, he initiated a dome integrity review, a comprehensive inspection of all infrastructure supporting Technopolis's protective barrier. Such reviews were routine, if infrequent, and necessarily included power generation capabilities as a critical component. Under this official cover, Lena and her team gained access to Sector 4, including the fusion plant. While conducting their ostensible inspection, they secretly prepared the facility for reactivation, installing control bypasses and power conduits that would later connect to Project Aurora. The work proceeded in tense shifts, always under the threat of discovery. Twice, Ben's security forces conducted surprise inspections of the Academy, forcing them to temporarily dismantle their prototypes and hide the components. Despite these setbacks, by the end of the second month, they had a working atmospheric processor ready for testing. The device, about the size of a small transport vehicle, hummed with potential energy as Soren made final adjustments. Tomorrow at dawn, he announced to the exhausted team. We'll activate the processor and release the first catalyst batch over the eastern quadrant, the most damaged section of the dome. If it works, we should see measurable air quality improvements within hours. The team celebrated cautiously, aware that success was far from guaranteed. As the others departed for a few hours of much-needed rest, Lena remained behind with Soren, reviewing the activation sequences one final time. "Why did you really come to Earth?" she asked during a lull in their work. "You could have fled anywhere in the galaxy." Soren's hands stilled on the control panel. For a moment, Lena thought he might not answer. "Penance," he said finally, his voice low. "I created something beautiful and watched it become a weapon. When I escaped, I wanted to go somewhere the Alliance had hurt, somewhere I might eventually use Aurora for its intended purpose." A bitter smile crossed his face. "Of course. I never imagined the resources would be quite this limited." "Do you think it will work?" Lena asked, gesturing to the processor. "The science is sound," Soren replied. "The question is whether our implementation is robust enough." He looked at her directly. "Are you prepared for failure, Engineer Arcel? Not everyone on your team will be." The question caught her off guard. Throughout the frantic weeks of development, Lena had focused solely on making Aurora work, not on the possibility that it might not. "If it fails," she said slowly, "we'll learn why and try again. That's what engineers do." Soren nodded, seeming satisfied with her answer. "Get some rest. Tomorrow we'll test all of us." Dawn brought clear skies, or as clear as they ever were above Technopolis. The team gathered on the Academy's roof, where they had secretly installed the primary processor unit disguised as environmental monitoring equipment. The secondary units, positioned at 3 points around the city's perimeter, were controlled remotely. "Catalyst deployment vessels in position," Zhang reported, monitoring the small drones they had launched earlier. "Power flow stable," Rodriguez confirmed from her station at the makeshift control console. "Fusion plant output at 60% and holding." Lena looked to Soren, who gave a terse nod. This was the moment of truth, the culmination of weeks of desperate work and centuries of Earth suffering. "Initiating Aurora sequence," she announced, entering the command codes. The processor hummed, its pitch rising as power flowed through its systems. Indicator lights shifted from amber to green as each subsystem came online. On their monitoring screens, they could see the drones releasing their catalyst payload, a fine mist that disappeared almost immediately into the toxic air. For several minutes, nothing seemed to happen. The team watched their instruments anxiously, looking for any sign of the cascading reactions Soren had promised. "Particulate levels in Sector 3 dropping," Diaz reported suddenly. 2%, 5%, 8 and increasing. A ripple of excitement passed through the group. On the screens, a visualization of the air quality showed a slowly expanding pocket of cleaner atmosphere, still far from pure, but measurably improved. "It's working," Lena breathed, hardly daring to believe it. Soren studied the readings with intense concentration. "The reaction chain is stable. Catalyst efficiency at 87%, better than my projections." Above them, almost imperceptibly at first, a patch of the eternal gray sky began to lighten. The change was subtle, a shift from toxic brown-gray to a lighter, clearer gray, but unmistakable to people who had known nothing but poison skies. "Look up," Jamal said softly. One by one, they raised their eyes to witness something few living Earth-dwellers had ever seen, a break in the perpetual gloom, a promise of what might be possible. The moment of triumph was shattered by the wail of security alarms. "We've got company," Jamal warned. Moving to the roof's edge, below, security vehicles were converging on the Academy from multiple directions. "Ben," Lena said grimly. "Someone talked, or he's been watching more closely than we realized." "Doesn't matter now," Soren replied, hands flying over the control panel. "The process is self-sustaining for at least 12 hours. They can arrest us, but they can't stop what we've started." "Unless they destroy the processors," Lena pointed out. "We need to lock down the system, secure it against override." Working rapidly, she implemented the protection protocols they had designed for exactly this contingency. By the time the roof access door burst open, admitting a squad of armed security officers, the Aurora system was sealed against external control. General Bin followed his men onto the roof, his expression a mixture of anger and something that might have been fear. He surveyed the assembled team, his gaze lingering on Soren. "Dr. Ellis," he said, recognition clear in his voice. "The Alliance has been looking for you for a very long time." "General Bin," Soren replied evenly. "Still doing the Alliance's dirty work." "I see." Bin ignored the jibe, turning his attention to the processor and the monitoring equipment. "So, this is what you've been hiding. An unauthorized atmospheric experiment?" He shook his head. "Do you have any idea what you've done? The Alliance monitors all atmospheric anomalies on Earth. They'll detect this within hours." "That's the point." Lena stepped forward, refusing to be intimidated. "Let them see that Earth can heal itself, that we're not the helpless wasteland they think we are." "They'll see it as a threat," Ben snapped. "A violation of the quarantine terms. You've just given them the excuse they need to accelerate their plans." The words confirmed what Jamal had told them. Ben knew about the Alliance's intention to eliminate Earth's population. "You knew," Lena accused, anger rising. "You knew they were planning to kill us all, and you did nothing." "I tried to save us the only way possible, by proving our compliance, our harmlessness," Ben retorted. "Now you've ruined our last chance at negotiation." "There was never going to be a negotiation," Soren said quietly. "The decision was made months ago. The Alliance wants Earth's resources without the complication of its people." Ben's expression faltered momentarily, revealing a man caught between impossible choices. "Shut it down," he ordered finally. "Now. Maybe we can still contain this. Tell them it was an unauthorized experiment by radical elements." "It's too late," Lena informed him with a certain satisfaction. "The system is locked and the reaction has begun. In 12 hours, the Eastern Quadrant's air will be 30% cleaner. In a week, if we can maintain the catalyst flow, the entire dome could have breathable air without filters for the first time in generations." Ben stared at her, calculation visible in his eyes. "And the defensive capabilities? Is that part of your miracle too?" The question surprised her. "You know about that aspect." "I've been an Alliance liaison for 20 years. Engineer Arcel. I know exactly what Aurora was designed to do. Both versions of it." Before Lena could respond, a new alarm sounded, this one from their long-range sensors. "Orbital contact," Rodriguez reported tensely. "Multiple signatures entering Earth atmosphere. Alliance configuration." "So they were already on their way," Jamal said grimly. "Your negotiations bought us nothing. General." Ben's face hardened. "Secure these people and this equipment," he ordered his security team. "We need to present a unified response when the Alliance representatives arrive." "Representatives?" Lena laughed bitterly. "They're not coming to talk, General. They're coming to begin the extermination." As if to punctuate her words, a distant rumble shook the dome, the sound of ships entering the atmosphere at combat speed. "The choice is yours, General," Soren said, his voice cutting through the moment of stunned silence. "Continue serving masters who plan to eliminate you along with the rest of us, or stand with your own people." Ben hesitated, conflict evident in his expression. Whatever decision he might have reached remained unspoken as the sky above them suddenly blazed with energy. Alliance ships firing on the dome's defensive systems. The structure shuddered under the assault. Ancient reinforcements, maintained for centuries against natural threats, now faced weapons designed to shatter planetary defenses. "They're targeting the dome supports," Lena realized in horror. "If they bring it down, everyone who can't survive in the wastes dies," Jamal finished grimly. "Efficient genocide." The calculus of survival visibly shifted in Ben's mind. "Stand down," he ordered his security forces. "Engineer Arcel, Dr. Ellis, what can Aurora do against this attack?" "Nothing yet," Soren admitted. "The catalyst concentration is too low, the coverage too limited. We need time to build up the reactive matrix throughout the dome's atmosphere." "Time we don't have." Ben observed as another barrage struck, this one closer. Warning lights flashed across their monitoring systems as dome integrity alerts activated throughout Technopolis. The fusion plant, Lena said suddenly. If we reroute all power to the Aurora processors, increase catalyst production exponentially, we might create a localized defensive field, Soren nodded, already making calculations. But the power surge would burn out the processors within hours. Hours might be enough, Jamal argued. The Alliance won't commit their entire fleet to this operation. If we can hold off the first wave, demonstrate that we have defense capabilities they didn't expect, they might reassess. Ben finished. Military strategy overriding his previous caution. At minimum, it buys us time to evacuate critical personnel to the deep shelters. Decision made. The unlikely allies worked feverishly as the assault continued. Using Ben's security codes, they gained direct access to the fusion plant's controls, overriding safety protocols to channel maximum power to the Aurora system. The processors screamed in mechanical protest as energy flooded their circuits beyond design parameters. The catalyst drones, reprogrammed for emergency dispersal, released their entire payloads in a concentrated pattern above the most vulnerable sections of the dome. Catalyst saturation reaching critical threshold, Soren reported, monitoring the reactions. Matrix formation accelerating. Above them, the patch of lighter sky began to expand rapidly, taking on a faint bluish tinge. The effects spread outward, like ripples in a pond, a visible manifestation of the molecular changes occurring in the atmosphere. The next Alliance barrage struck the dome, but instead of the devastating impact of previous attacks, the energy weapons dispersed in spectacular fashion, their power diffused through the reactive matrix Aurora had created. Brilliant flares of light danced across the sky as deadly energy was transformed into harmless illumination. "It's working!" Lena exclaimed. Ben was already on his communicator, coordinating with Earth's limited defense forces. All units, concentrate fire on the lead Alliance vessels, targeting data to follow. Earth's defensive capabilities were pitiful compared to the Alliance fleet. But with Aurora neutralizing their primary weapons, the invaders suddenly found themselves vulnerable to even outdated countermeasures. The battle above Technopolis raged for nearly an hour, a confused, desperate struggle as the Alliance forces attempted to adjust to the unexpected resistance. Several ships retreated to higher orbits, beyond the range of both Earth's weapons and Aurora's protective field. "They're regrouping," Ben informed them, reading tactical data from his forces, preparing for a different approach. "The processors won't last much longer," Soren warned, indicating the alarming temperature readings from their equipment. "We're pushing them far beyond sustainable operation." Lena stared at the monitoring screens, a desperate plan forming in her mind. "What if we don't need them to last? What if we can make the Alliance retreat without another attack?" "How?" Ben asked skeptically. "By showing them what Aurora really is, and what it means." She turned to Jamal. "The refugee ship had communication codes, right? Ways to bypass Alliance encryption?" He nodded slowly, understanding dawning. "You want to broadcast?" "To every Alliance world," Lena confirmed. "Show them what their leadership is doing. Explain what Aurora was meant to be." "It won't work," Ben objected. "Alliance citizens are conditioned to ignore outside transmissions. Security protocols automatically block unverified signals." "Not if they come from within their own communication network," Soren said, warming to Lena's plan. "And not if they're carried by the Aurora matrix itself." This was the genius of Soren's original design that the Alliance had never fully understood. Aurora didn't just create a reactive atmosphere, it established a communication medium, a way for the molecular changes to propagate and coordinate across vast distances. "We can use the matrix to piggyback on their own communication frequencies," Soren explained rapidly. "Any ship that's been in contact with the Aurora field becomes a transmission node. Working with frantic energy, they reconfigured the system. Soren adapted the processor controls, while Jamal used his Alliance knowledge to access the communication protocols. Lena prepared the message. Simple, direct, and devastating. As the Alliance fleet positioned for a renewed assault, they activated the broadcast. Through the Aurora matrix, their signal spread to the Alliance ships, and from there, into the interstellar communication network that connected the human colonies across the galaxy. On every Alliance world, on ships and stations throughout controlled space, the same transmission appeared, overriding regular communications, bypassing security filters through the unique properties of the Aurora matrix. The message began with visual evidence: the Alliance attack on Technopolis, the deliberate targeting of civilian infrastructure. It continued with the truth about Project Aurora, Soren's testimony about his research being stolen and weaponized. It concluded with the revelation of the Earth Reclamation Initiative, the planned genocide of millions for resource acquisition. Most devastating of all was the closing segment, a compilation of messages from Earthborn humans throughout the Alliance, testifying to the systematic discrimination they had faced, the suppression of Earth's history, the deliberate portrayal of their homeworld as a wasteland unworthy of assistance. The broadcast lasted less than 5 minutes. When it ended, the Alliance fleet above Technopolis hung motionless, as if uncertain how to proceed, now that their actions were visible to billions across inhabited space. "Now we wait," Jamal said softly. They didn't wait long. Within 20 minutes, the Alliance vessels began to withdraw, ascending to orbit without further attacks. Bin's tactical feeds showed confused communication patterns, contradictory orders from different command levels. "We've created chaos in their chain of command," Bin observed with professional appreciation. "Different factions responding differently to the exposure. Or to the public reaction," Lena suggested. How many Alliance citizens knew what their government planned to do in their name? As the immediate threat receded, the cost of their desperate defense became apparent. The Aurora processors, pushed beyond their limits, began to fail one after another. The reactive matrix in the atmosphere would persist for days, perhaps weeks, but without sustained catalyst input, it would eventually dissipate. "We bought time," Soren said, shutting down the overheating primary processor before it could ignite. "But we haven't won anything permanent yet." "We've done more than that," Lena disagreed. "We've shown what's possible. Aurora works, both as environmental restoration and defense. And now the entire Alliance knows it." The next weeks brought unprecedented change to Earth. The Aurora broadcast had indeed created a political earthquake throughout the Alliance. Reports filtered back to Technopolis of public protests on Central Worlds, political upheaval in the Alliance Council, and formal inquiries into the Earth Reclamation Initiative. Most significantly, the embargo showed signs of cracking. Several independent trading vessels, defying official restrictions, made contact with Earth, offering supplies and technology in exchange for information about Aurora. These black market connections, while limited, represented the first meaningful off-world interaction Earth had experienced in generations. Within Technopolis, Lena and her team became reluctant heroes. Despite the failure of the initial processors, the brief demonstration of Aurora's potential had transformed public opinion. Citizens who had lived their entire lives, resigned to Earth's slow death, now spoke of restoration, of a future beyond mere survival. General Bin, surprisingly, became their most effective ally. His military authority, combined with his intimate knowledge of Alliance protocols, provided critical protection as they rebuilt the Aurora system, this time designed for sustainability rather than desperate defense. "The Alliance is fracturing over this," he informed them during a planning session 6 weeks after the attack. "At least 3 major colony worlds have declared independence from central authority. Earthborn citizens throughout the system are demanding recognition and reparations." "And the military?" Jamal asked, knowing that ultimately, force would determine Earth's fate. "Divided, Ben admitted. The fleet commanders are split between those loyal to the Council and those unwilling to participate in what's now being called the Earth Atrocity. For now, that division works in our favor. They're too busy watching each other to organize another attack. Lena had spent the intervening weeks refining the Aurora design, incorporating lessons from their emergency deployment. With Soren's guidance, they created a more efficient system that could operate within Earth's resource constraints. The molecular cascade is the key, she explained to the expanded team, now working openly on the project. Once initiated, the reactions become self-sustaining if properly balanced. Our failure was trying to do too much too quickly. The new implementation focused on gradual atmospheric restoration, a process that might take years rather than hours, but would permanently heal Earth's poisoned sky rather than temporarily shielding it. 3 months after the Alliance attack, they activated the first of the new generation processors. Unlike the desperate defense system, this version worked subtly, almost imperceptibly changing the atmosphere molecule by molecule. But the cumulative effect was measurable. Air quality improved week by week, the eternal gray lightening gradually towards something that might, eventually, deserve to be called sky. The real validation came from beyond Earth. 6 months after the attack, the very time frame in which the Alliance had planned to eliminate Earth's population, a different kind of ship entered orbit. It broadcast on open frequencies, requesting permission to land. "It's a diplomatic vessel," Ben announced with undisguised astonishment. "Representatives from the breakaway colonies. They're requesting formal talks with Earth's leadership." The landing was conducted with ceremony unprecedented in recent Earth history. The dome's central plaza, hastily refurbished, hosted delegates from 7 former Alliance worlds, colonies that had declared independence in the wake of the Aurora revelation. Lena, along with Soren, Jamal, and Ben, attended as part of Earth's delegation. Rector Emerson, as the highest-ranking civilian authority, led the talks. The lead ambassador, a woman with the distinctive features of Proxima Colony, addressed them with formal gravity. "We come seeking alliance, true alliance with Earth," she began. "The revelation of the planned atrocity against your world has forced a reckoning throughout human space. Many of us have realized how thoroughly we were conditioned to ignore our origins, to accept the portrayal of Earth as a wasteland beyond redemption." She gestured to her fellow delegates. "Each of us represents a world with Earth-born citizens or their descendants. We have all experienced the Alliance's hierarchical structure that placed Earth at the bottom, useful only for its resources, not its people." "What exactly are you proposing?" Emerson asked cautiously. "A new beginning," the ambassador replied. "Technological exchange, fair trade agreements, and most importantly, Aurora implementations across multiple worlds suffering from environmental degradation." At this, Soren leaned forward. "Aurora was designed for exactly that purpose, healing worlds, not weaponizing them." "We know," the ambassador acknowledged. "Your broadcast made that clear. Many of our worlds face challenges different from, but related to Earth's. Atmospheric toxicity, radiation zones, ecosystem collapse. We believe Aurora can help address these issues across human space." "And in exchange?" Ben asked, ever the strategist. "Partnership," she said simply. "Earth rejoins the community of human worlds as an equal, not a forgotten ancestor. Your scientists and engineers, the people who implemented Aurora against impossible odds, help establish similar systems elsewhere. We share resources, knowledge, and security." The negotiations continued for days, delving into specifics of technology transfer, trade terms, and mutual defense. Throughout the discussions, one fact became increasingly clear. Earth, long dismissed as a backwater wasteland, now held something the rest of human space desperately wanted. "It's ironic," Lena remarked to Jamal as they observed the diplomatic teams at work. "They abandoned us, left us to die slowly, and now they need us, Not ironic, Jamal corrected. Just human. We forget our origins until crisis forces us to remember. The final agreement, signed a week later, established the Earth Restoration Accord, a framework for cooperation between Earth and the independent colonies. The terms included immediate technological assistance for Earth's infrastructure, medical advances to address generations of radiation exposure, and educational exchanges to bridge the knowledge gap created by centuries of isolation. In return, Earth would share Aurora technology under Soren's direction, establishing a network of atmospheric restoration systems across participating worlds. The defensive capabilities would remain Earth's exclusive domain for the immediate future, a necessary protection against possible Alliance retaliation. As the colonial delegates prepared to depart, carrying the signed accords and the first technical specifications for their own Aurora implementations, Lena found herself standing at the edge of the plaza, gazing up at the dome. For the first time in her memory, patches of genuine blue were visible through the gradually clearing haze, small windows into what the sky had once been, what it might become again. Soren joined her, his expression reflective. When I fled to Earth, I thought I was choosing exile in hell. Instead, I found the one place in human space where Aurora could fulfill its original purpose. And save us all in the process, Lena added. He nodded. The molecular transformation continues beyond our atmosphere now. The matrix is spreading through near-Earth space, carried by solar wind. Eventually, it will reach other systems. Healing as it goes, Lena said, understanding the implications. Yes, not just our air, but our connection to the stars. Soren smiled, a genuine expression that erased years from his careworn face. They called Earth a wasteland, but it was always the cradle of innovation, of human resilience. Lena thought of the journey that had brought them to this moment. The desperate gamble with the refugee information, the search through the wastes, the frantic defense against overwhelming odds. Against all probability, they had transformed potential extinction into the beginning of renaissance. Above them, as if to punctuate the thought, the colonial ship ascended through the dome's controlled access port, its engines flaring bright against the clearing sky. Not as invaders or executioners, but as partners returning to the stars with Earth's gift, the technology to heal worlds and, perhaps, to heal the divisions of humanity itself. What now? Soren asked, watching the ship until it disappeared from view. Lena considered the question, feeling the weight of possibility it contained. The Aurora project would continue, expanding across Technopolis and eventually beyond the dome. The knowledge exchange with the colonies would accelerate Earth's recovery. The future, for the first time in centuries, held more promise than threat. Now, she said, we bring the sky back to Earth, and then we reach for the stars again, not as refugees or outcasts, but as the people who remembered how to heal a broken world. Around them, citizens of Technopolis went about their daily tasks with a new energy, a purpose beyond mere survival. Children born into a world of perpetual gray would grow up watching the sky transform, witnessing the impossible become reality day by day. They had called Earth a backwater wasteland, until its refugees brought the sky to its knees. And in doing so, they had reminded all of humanity that origins matter, that abandoned homes can still harbor unexpected strength, and that sometimes the path to the future leads through the past we tried to forget.